Welcome to the Do It All Dad Year podcast. Dad friendly entertainment for you and me. Controlling our kids through comedy can make our kids great again. And I'm your host, Michael Kornbluth, and this is episode 29. Funnier dad, happier baby. What do I mean by that? And my main point is this: I make my kids happier than both my wife and I were growing up because I'm funnier than both grandparents combined. Even my 4-year-old son walks funny. He wobbles around like Charlie Chaplin after taking a dump in his pants. My daughter's talent show material about how much he hates yoga class at day camp. I hate yoga class because it's so slow and boring. The only difference from the World Cup is that you don't have to inhale Rolando's funky feet. Bossing Through Kidding works. Great title, I know. Let me repeat it. Bossing Through Kidding works. Because if my three kids were A+ annoying, I'd be Louis C.K. minus the Emmys. And an ability to distinguish real life from a peep show in Times Square in the summer of '69. Walking it till my fingers bled. Daughter asked me, Dada, what's perseverance? And I say, doing what you have to do, even if it's only once a year on her birthday. You want to learn whether a semi-older gal can ride your pogo stick with real feeling? Watch her plop on a seesaw with her kid to see if she really throws her back into it versus being a Humpty Dumpty on it. Don't tell you that having 3 children and hanging out at the park eliminates all potential future comedic material. This is my younger brother. It's adorable when he defends my dad. And my dad, just to be clear, is right now looking after my 2 kids in Scarsdale Village. And my newborn Samuel has connected with them. They have not had that much FaceTime together. But he looks the most like him when he was younger. And it's impossible to ignore. And whenever I listen to Michael Savage, which is more frequently these days, I always think of my father. Because many Jewish New Yorkers from the Bronx are similar in the sense that they have very high opinions of themselves, have no problem expressing themselves, and they have a strain of humor in the majority of their personalities. And they have a heightened appreciation for rock and roll in some capacity. And the old school classics as well. Talking Big Bang, Gershwin, not so much to my father, but you could say Michael Savage is my more erudite, father figure. But, my dad's no dummy either. My mom got a perfect score on her math SAT. Meanwhile, my dad's still destroying her in Scrabble. So, explain that one. So anyway, back to some jokes. But I just wanted to say to my audience that, forgiveness. Forget forgiveness. Since I stopped doing Adderall, I did a previous podcast called Raising Your Kids on Speed. I have become the sweeter, better version of me, and I'm grateful for it. So I want to thank God for it, and thank the fact that I've been able to bond with my father again, and not have our relationship completely plagued by derision and scorn for me being off the corporate America work front for the past 2 years. I had expressed to my father the fact that I'm very passionate about this podcast. It's getting some momentum. I started blogging again. I have some book ideas. He actually encouraged me to write about this experience. I said, I'm already doing it. And that's really great. When, your own father, can bond with you and say, go for it, kid, make it happen. And I think the reason why my father says that is because towards the end of his career, he was the rainmaker. He worked for a packaging company. We're talking $90 million in revenue, and he was the main driver behind it. And in the end, he was relegated to basically being in a office space that was like in a trailer because they were moving offices, and he's around these other people. I mean, my father's no poverty case. He ended up getting, like a 2-year severance, which was, and he received a very hefty salary, but it wasn't the honorable way you want to go out. It wasn't, the Mariano Rivera, goodbye, suck you off to a long time, to the to great. So I love you, Dad, and I'm really glad you're in my life again. So, and you too, Mom. So here we go, and the fact that you're able to, bond with Samuel, means everything. It's that sort of love that makes the world go around. So here we go, moving forward. Let's talk about my dad for a second. But this is going to be a boring podcast if, I'm just professing my love. So let's get back to some like hardcore edge here, people. Leave it to my younger brother to drum up those dormant feelings of rage that are obviously still fully embedded in my system. So my younger brother says, the thing is about my younger brother is that, he's a mama's boy, I'm a father's boy too. And that's fine, everything to a certain extent, but, once in a while, I just expect, like, some sort of self-awareness. And, when you're busting your parents' balls, and as long as it's not coming from a complete place of malicious intent, have a sense of humor and go with the flow, and don't get so defensive on your behalf. Like, for example, when I refer to Dad as a narcissist, because he's an only child, most only childs are narcissists. He does live in Arizona, and brags about the fact that, he plays for tennis for 3 hours with people 10 years younger than him, which is great. Good for him. Post-heart attack, post-stents. But, this is also like 300 days a year that he has grandchildren. Fine, whatever. He says he hates the cold. He's scarred from it. Commuted across the GW Bridge forever to make a living. I get it. But don't say he's not a narcissist. So you don't upgrade from Scarsdale Village and get a bigger estate in Scottsdale to entertain your friends more so than, your own grandchildren and firstborn, and say he's not a narcissist. But that's only one aspect of his personality. It doesn't overshadow a lot of the mentally upstanding character that he represents. So I just hate it when my younger brother decides to like whitewash stuff and not call out faults when you're just busting balls. So here we go. So I'm talking to my younger brother, and he got all defensive after I called Dad a narcissist. He says, Dad isn't a narcissist. And I say, you post driving selfies on Facebook. You're past the point of objective return, bro. No offense. To trigger my younger brother for Hanukkah, he's a big Trump hater. To trigger my younger brother for Hanukkah, I plan on all 3 of my kids wearing Jewish Trump supporter t-shirts. Assuming my younger brother demands for them to take the t-shirts off, I'll make sure that my kids will be wearing absolute Trump wins in 2020 vodka tank tops underneath for the ultimate kill shot. Hey now! So my younger daughter, well, she's the oldest, Matilda, 7. She has these Barbies. She got every Barbie known to mankind. And I felt compelled to take a picture of these Barbies because it looks so funny to me because she had them set up in very provocative positions. So, and what I mean by that is that their legs were, essentially every Barbie was in a spread eagle position. I'm not going to say one was in doggy style, but close enough to the point where I was thinking sexual thoughts. So I took a picture of it and to send to some friends to develop some material. This is what I came up with. So I send the picture, and I asked my daughter about the provocative poses about involving her Barbies, and my daughter, without missing a beat, said, "Daddy, they're getting ready for wrestling." And I'm thinking, let the pounding begin. So I wanted to do this episode because, for the past 3-day stretch, my wife, she works at nights. She's a nurse, and I had and my 2 other kids are in camp. So I had these stretches where it's just me and my son Samuel, which is very special. And you got a good-looking kid who exudes star power up the wazoo if he's causing shopping cart traffic jams 10 people deep at a stop and shop in the hickey hinterlands of northern Westchester County, meaning at least 10 people on separate occasions, essentially bum rushing myself and my son to a mode about how happy he is, how smiley he is, and how gorgeous the kid is. And what I usually get is he a girl? Which is definitely a surefire sign that baby Samuel is not going to have a hard time, scoring a prom date. That's for damn sure. So I'm very happy for him. And so I was talking about funnier dad, happier baby. Because when you're constantly being bombarded in a great sense, your kid is so happy, you want to think about the reasons why. And in essence, when I'm out with the kid, I'm constantly doing jokes. And we're always mixing it up. I mean, sure, we have our spots. We got our Harvest Moon, we got our hayfields, it's another local farm, we got the coffee shop. But Daddy's very social, and I don't have the luxury of chasing down open mics anymore. But what I've learned in life, like Shakespeare says, the world is your stage. You don't need to be limited to some, dumpy, bar on the Lower East Side, or you don't have to do some, ultra PC, super tense lesbo coffee shop open mic in Park Slope. So you mix it up. And my son is always with me. I mean, he's basically been with me since he's been born. I have not had a job in the big city. So, they always say that, your children, become the person who is like the loudest megaphone that they're around the most. So why wouldn't my son, absorb, all this funny? And I mean, like, what is comedy? I mean, like comedy, they always say laughter, Victor Borge, it's the shortest distance between two people. And, daddy's, making those love connections whenever out and about. So I think it's really cool that he's able to be this, pure beneficiary of, constant laughter all the time, which, most kids aren't. Sesame Street, despite the fact that they've, pumped up the comedy, and I love the Elmo Putty character, but it's all said and done, TV, is not generating the quality of consistent, laughs that, dad is getting on a regular basis, that not only from strangers, but also on the home front when I just play with my kid. So that's always really nice. And that inspired this episode, the title, "Funnier Dad, Happier Baby." And yeah, so like I said, so I always get your baby's so happy, right? Which makes sense because my son's smile screams, "I know I've hit the genetic lotto, but I'm being more adorable than assholey about it." I love it when my mom back in the, I mean, this happened not too long ago. I'm not on Facebook anymore because I don't want to promote censorship, but or Twitter. If I'm just to be clear, I just post this podcast on Twitter. I'm done, feeding the joke machine there. But this is my point. So a while back, we went on a bunch of camping trips. We don't have that much money over here, but we're always going on adventures. And back in the day, I was very liberal with posting pictures and everything. And I remember my mom one time having a sit down with me, and she goes, son, I love the fact that you take your children on these adventures, but it also saddens me because it makes me realize that when you grow up, we never did anything, and we didn't take you anywhere. And I said, why is that, Mom? And she said, then she throws my father under the bus, whether it's deliberate or not. I don't know if she was tense. And she said, well, your dad always said, who is going to look after the kids? And at the time, I'm thinking to myself, in relation to my dad, but Dad, like, you had nothing to do with us at home after you came in from work and watching Nick suck up the joint, huffing on Territon 100s. But now, blood-tied child monitoring is a sudden issue on the exterior home security vacation front. I find that conversation very comical. And also, I took a stand-up comedy course a while back, and my teacher, his name was Jim Mendrinos, and he said, you don't always have to make fun of like misery in order to extrapolate comedy. Like he gave the example of like that Eddie Murphy joke, like you ain't got no ice cream, your mama's on welfare. And he talks about how he captured the incredible joy of like the ice cream truck guy. Of course, what he failed to point out also too was that that bit doesn't really work unless there is a recipient uh, for that punchline who is getting the shitty end of the ice cream stick, if you will. But I wanted to take a stab at it. So this is my another happy kid theory from a mom who's a teacher that lives close by, who told me my political material was too angry. Told me that I should focus more on the family uniting stuff that's more universal. Her name is Cindy. Very fond of her. Very smart gal, and pretty funny in her own right. So thank you, Cindy. Appreciate the nudge. So this is for you. So this is inspired by Cindy. Cindy Greenberg. Another happy kid theory. This is Cindy. Your kids are happy because you do stuff with them, besides drop them off at grandma and grandpa's with religious zeal, as if your remaining sanity depended on it. This is my daughter this week. I got her this sparkling watermelon like fizzy drink, and this is my daughter pushing the drink on me, encouraging me to take a sip. Daddy, give this drink a shot. It's delicious. I know it's a little pinko for your taste. She kills me. Again, let me repeat. Funnier dad, happier baby. I could also use the title. I could also sub in that title. Funnier dad, happier kids. Same thing. Without a doubt. And college friend Tim. Yeah, I had a friend in college named Tim. Good kid. Introduced me to Otis Running. I remember he once said, I would love to hang out in your mind once because you produce maximum joy in there. So, and I thought of you, Tim, today because, we were close. I visited that one time when I was in Cape Cod. And it's true. When I think of how when I spend time with my children one-on-one, I'm able to make them, happier than mama. No offense. And it's because I'm funnier. Mama's funny, and I don't mean in terms of jokes. I'm just talking in terms of, I think, there's Stephen Wright. He's funny, but I think my kids would lose interest real fast. I wouldn't really consider him, high octane, funny. Definitely more in the, dry, Boston erudite side. Definitely not Dennis Leary. So there's different elements, but I think that high energy, being young at heart, being silly, and also using the element of surprise. Like for example, I do this thing with my son, where I'll say, "Well, I've done it with all my children," and I say, "Falling Putsy Apple Tree Part 2," and then I'll ram my head into my son's belly in a playful manner. I don't. There's no menace behind it. I'm not headbutting the crap out of my kid over here, but I'll throw an element of surprise and I'll say, "Falling Putsy Apple Tree Part 5," and I say that, and then I headbutt him 5 times in a row. But I'll mix up the verbiage, and in comedy, there does need to be an element of surprise. So by just mixing it up, and by just not saying "Falling Putsy Apple Tree Part 2," not just repeating myself and mixing up the delivery and having fun with the editing and not being afraid to, sound stupid or not get a laugh because your kids are going to appreciate the effort either way. So, again, controlling your kids through comedy can make kids great again. Preaching the gospel, spreading the love. Feel free to experiment. Your kids will love you a long time for it. In the end, all of you do-it-all dads or aspirational do-it-all dads, you have ultimate bragging rights, knowing that being a funnier dad equals happier babies. And that's something you do superior than your wife. I don't even care if it's related to Tina Fey. I'm not going to go on this rant and say men are funnier than women, blah, blah, blah. However, in my instance, if I were to compare my sense of funny compared to my wife, I beat her. So, but she's very funny. And I've always said that my wife, if she were to do stand-up, she'd be great. She'd be one of the great ones. I firmly believe that. But she's a nurse, and she plans on becoming this lactation consultant. Now she works in labor and delivery, and I already got a great title for her book. Once I get a pattern, I'll share it with you. I even have her first line. So I'm hoping that, knowing that I have her future best-selling title and her opening sentence, and knowing that I'm the ultimate cheerleader, I figured this will give me some breathing room as far as me not having to start applying for recruiter jobs just for the sake of it. uh, I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. So here we go. My Son's Fortunate Smile. That's a good title, right? I'm going to use that for a blog. My Son's Fortunate Smile. Talking about my newborn Samuel. My Son's Fortunate Smile. It can light up a UN-funded death tunnel used to kidnap Israeli children on the PLO's Day of Rest from Evil, whatever that is. My son's smile-powered lunge hug screams, smiling back is no longer sufficient to express the depths of my love. Future title podcast episodes. Advertising mistakes to my kids. Reversing narcissism. Reversing narcissism through parenting. My nightlife with 3 kids. Here's a poem I wrote this week. Why kids love back. Because you let them turn your bed into a 24/7 open milk bar, which cures any potential abandonment issues on the spot. I messed that up. We're going to start this over again. Why kids love back. Because you let them turn your bed into a 24/7 open milk bar, which cures any potential abandonment issue scars. Much better. I appreciate you staying with me on that. Why kids love back. Because you show interest in their stories and don't space out on them every 2 seconds like a super stoned Dory. Why kids love back. Because you come up with funny nicknames in their honor, like 8'2", Rockstar Ready, and Archer USA, which they never heard Dr. Seuss say. Why kids love back. Because you play with them, come rain or shine, thinking to yourself, I can't believe they are real or mine. Why kids love back. Because you reward their good behavior with fancy treats whenever they've been fuss-free, for not once wiggling in their seats. Why do kids love back? Because you make them feel like the most important center of your universe instead of the reverse. Why do kids love back? Because when you say I love you, it doesn't feel manufactured horse, like you're forcing the issue to avoid a divorce. Why do kids love back? Because you make an open sesame hummus bagel sandwich with Munster to give the lunch options for camp more zest, proving do-it-all dad refuses to settle for second best. Side note, you know you're a great dad when you admit to loving your dad more than your own kids? And this is how Harold Ramis's daughter feels, according to her new autobiography, Ghostbusters' Daughter. I'm enjoying that so far. Harold Ramis, for you Millennial Musketeers who have no idea who I'm talking about right now, and I want you to love the podcast. I want you to promote the podcast. I say Millennial Musketeer in the most affectionate way. You know what? I don't care about educating you about Harold Ramis. Google it. I'm moving forward. A son's love. Here we go. A son's love is God's way of saying, I'm on your team. A son's love urges you to become a famous children's author, but funnier than Weird Al, Dada. A son's love is an unexpected hug from behind when you're on the ground, cleaning up after him. A son's love spoils you rotten because your tolerance for petty, passive-aggressive behavior from lesser alpha males becomes significantly less. A son's love makes you feel like a winner inside because you know he believes in your enormous upside. A son's love allows you to relive your childhood through a more mature lens and starts reteaching. Blah, 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 blah. A son's love allows you to relive your childhood through a more mature lens and start reteaching yourself the proper way to hold the pen. A son's love is a natural transfer of extreme joy, assuming you're raising your boys on more than just soy. A son's love is a second chance at respectable redemption, because abstaining from all hard booze at home for them does wonders for your complexion. A son's love never ceases to amaze, like endless repeat viewings of Richard Linklaters dazed. A son's love makes you incredibly proud, especially when they deliver such A-plus nicknames in your honor, like Always Loud. A son's love makes you feel luckier than Lou Gehrig on earth, batting behind Babe Ruth every playoff berth. A son's love means I'll silence the next guy who tells my son to shut up in a scoff because his head will be knocked right off. This is the Do It All Dad Year podcast, dad-friendly entertainment for you and me, controlling our kids through comedy, can make our kids great again. I'll talk to you guys soon.